The earth has a voice if you know how to listen. It whispers in the slow tilt of a fence post, murmurs through the widening gap between sidewalk slabs, and groans in the deep, reluctant shift of soil that has carried too much for too long. Most folks tune it out. They prefer the tidy hum of lawn mowers and the crisp snap of HOA flags. I used to be one of them, until 21 years ago in Louisiana, when the ground opened its mouth and swallowed 4 homes whole. That collapse haunts me still. The way the foundations cracked like eggshells, the mud rising slow and merciless, claiming everything in its path. It taught me that ignoring the earth's murmurs doesn't make them quiet. It just makes the roar louder when it finally comes. These days, I live in Pinewood Meadows, a tidy suburb in Northern California where the houses line up like soldiers, and the HOA enforces perfection with the zeal of a drill sergeant. It's the kind of place where mailboxes must match in color and hedges can't exceed 18 inches. I moved here 5 years ago for the quiet, after retiring from the USGS with a pension and a dog named Buster, my old golden retriever, who moves slower than he used to, but still sniffs out trouble before I do. That October morning, as we rounded the tennis courts, I spotted it, a fresh fracture in the sidewalk, clean as a knife cut, with a 1/4-inch gap where the concrete had pulled away from the soil. Buster paused, nose twitching at the damp earth. I knelt, ran my fingers along the break. No weathering, no roots pushing up. Just a straight, silent line, like the ground had exhaled overnight. In Pinewood, built on the remnants of an old almond orchard sloping toward a buried creek bed, that was no small thing. Subsidence doesn't announce itself with fanfare, it starts with whispers. I kept quiet at first, no sense riling the board without proof. But over the next weeks, the signs multiplied. Fences leaned where they hadn't before. A soggy patch behind the rec center stayed wet long after dry spells. I borrowed a ground-penetrating radar unit from an old colleague at the university and walked the east ridge at dawn. The scans confirmed it. Thin fill layers, swollen clay seams, an old water channel lurking like a fault line. The HOA's grand project sat right on top. The Pinnacle Towers, twin glass and steel behemoths they were erecting for offices, a clubhouse, luxury townhomes. They broke ground in June, boasting of elevated living in their glossy mailers. By August, the skeletons rose, pylons driven deep but not deep enough, foundations poured over soil that remembered its wilder days. I couldn't stay silent. I drafted a report, 20 pages of board data, USGS citations, risk maps flagging the tower site for latent settlement. Immediate reevaluation recommended. I wrote, diplomatic as I could manage. What I meant was, you're building on a time bomb. I hand-delivered it to the HOA trailer, a prefab eyesore parked by the pool. The receptionist, a young woman named Carla with a name tag pinned crooked, took the envelope with a polite smile. I'll get this to Mr. Harlan right away, Mr. Ellis. We appreciate community input. 2 weeks passed without a word. Then the certified letter arrived from Harlan and Associates, the board's law firm. I opened it at the kitchen table, Buster snoring at my feet. Dear Mr. Ellis, it began, your unsolicited geological assessment constitutes unlicensed practice and potential incitement to public alarm. Continued dissemination may result in civil remedies under nuisance statutes. No acknowledgement of the data, just a velvet-gloved threat. I set it down, heart steady but anger rising slow. This wasn't ignorance, it was willful blindness. I tried again, mailing a revised report, thicker, with seismic models and historical precedents, to board President Victor Harlan himself. Harlan was a retired real estate man in his late 60s, all pressed khakis and buzzwords like synergistic growth. The response came faster this time, a violation notice for my backyard shed, 8 years old and grandfathered in. I scheduled the appeal hearing for the following Tuesday, held in the community center's back room, fluorescent lights buzzing like angry hornets. The panel sat behind a folding table. Victor Harlan in the center, flanked by Gloria Voss, a sharp-eyed retiree with a silk scarf knotted like a noose, and Trent Kimball, a younger board member with a realtor's handshake and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I laid my folder on the table, cleared my throat. Appreciate you hearing me out. This shed's been here since I bought the place. Harlan leaned forward, tapping a pen against his notepad. Mr. Ellis, we're here for the shed violation, not extracurricular reports. But since you mentioned it, let's address the elephant. Your little geological hobby, it's causing quite the stir. I met his gaze. It's not a hobby, Victor. I spent 30 years with the USGS mapping risks like this. The data in that report. Gloria interrupted, her scarf fluttering as she waved a hand. Data from a retired bureaucrat? We have licensed engineers, Mr. Ellis. Professionals who cleared this project 3 ways to Sunday. You're not one of them anymore. Not retired by choice, I said evenly. But the borings show high moisture in the clay layer. Trent chuckled, leaning back. Moisture? It's California, Walt. We get rain. Look, we all want the towers. Property values up 20% already on paper. Your warnings? They're scaring pre-buyers. One called it quits after reading your pamphlet. It's a report, I corrected. And ignoring subsidence risks isn't visionary, it's negligent. That old creek bed under the ridge. Harlan cut in, voice smooth as oiled gravel. Enough. We've got permits, inspections, the works. If you keep spreading this doom and gloom, it borders on defamation. Focus on your shed. Pay the $200 fine, and we'll call it square. I gathered my papers, standing slow. The shed's fine. But the towers? When they tilt, and they will, remember I tried to tell you. Gloria's eyes narrowed. Threats won't help, Mr. Ellis. We're building the future here. Try not to drag us back to the Stone Age. I walked out without another word, the door clicking shut behind me like a judgment. Retaliation followed like clockwork. My solar panels cited for glare nuisance. Speed bumps vanished from my corner, turning quiet streets into speedways. Cars whipped past at 40 in a 25 zone, horns blaring. I documented it all, photos, timestamps, witness statements from neighbors too scared to sign. Construction didn't slow. Cement trucks rumbled in at dawn, towers climbing floor by floor, glass facades gleaming like false promises. The HOA hawked pre-leases with sunset tours, residents snapping selfies in hard hats. They hosted a topping-out bash with shrimp skewers and a jazz trio, banners proclaiming built to last. The wind shredded one before dusk. No one seemed to notice. I walked the perimeter daily, Buster's paws sinking deeper into softening soil. One dusk, a hard hat worker caught my eye from the scaffold, mouthing, "It's bad." That night, a blocked call, a gravelly voice, hurried. "Saw your report. They fudged the saturation levels, said it'd tank funding. Plays like soup down there. Watch your back." Rain hit Thursday, a steady pour turning to sheets by midnight. My sensors pinged, saturation at 87%. I suited up, flashlight in hand, and trudged to the back fence. The slope undulated, a subtle wave under the floodlights. A pop, like wet timber snapping, and the retaining wall fractured, water gushing through like a breached levee. Tower B groaned, listing inches at first, then more. Scaffolding swayed, the garage level caved, mud swallowing cars whole. The eastern face sheared, floors folding inward with a screech of rebar. Glass rained down in glittering shards. It wasn't a bang but a sigh, the earth reclaiming its due. Tower A sagged, half submerged, but held. I dialed emergency services, voice steady. Walt Ellis, former USGS. Slope failure at Pinnacle Towers, evacuate now. Sirens wailed by 4 a.m. A news van screeched up. I waved them to the ridge. By sunrise, it was everywhere. HOA towers crumble after warnings ignored. Whistleblowers crawled out, engineers with doctored borings, emails from Harlan dismissing my report as clipboard paranoia. The board's presser blamed freak weather, but the ground told another story. Victor resigned Monday, muttering about health. Lawsuit snowballed. The state probe found fraud in the surveys. An emergency meeting packed the gym. Harlan's successor, a crisis consultant named Lydia Grant, called me forward. "Mr. Ellis, the board, former board, wants your input." I stood, folder in hand. "Input? I gave it months ago. You buried it." Lydia nodded. "We see that now. But for the record, tell us." The room hushed. I spread maps, photos. The clay swelled, the fill shifted. It was predictable, textbook subsidence. I flagged it, cited data. Harlan called it fearmongering. A new board member, Tom Reyes, leaned in. "Why us? Why not go public sooner?" "Because I trusted the process," I said. "You. Meetings like this. But when threats came, fines, vandalism, you made me the villain." Gloria, still lingering in the back, piped up. "We protected the community from panic." "Protected?" I shot back. "You silenced warnings. That tower didn't just sink, it exposed you." Murmurs rose. Lydia raised a hand. "Enough." Motion to dissolve the board. Unanimous. Cheers followed. Neighbors gripped my arm. "You saved us, Walt." The ridge healed into a wild preserve, native grasses rooting deep. I walk Buster their mornings, slower now, but the earth feels solid. Some nights Louisiana visits in dreams. The mud, the child's shoe, but I wake lighter. This time, the warning stuck. The innocent walked away. What do you think? Was Walt right to keep pushing after the threats, or should he have walked away to protect himself? Ever faced a system that punished truth-telling? Drop your story in the comments. Where do you draw the line between warning others and preserving your own peace? We read everyone.